Okay, welcome back. This is part 2 of Vogue, March 2020. So let's get started with the images. Okay, here we have Valentino. And Valentino was very much like Louis Vuitton and Gucci as of late. It had kind of lost its center of gravity and was kind of veering out of control. But they continue to recover quite nicely. So Valentino, Celine, and Louis Vuitton continued to make progress. They were all in a very bad way. So Valentino is continuing to progress quite nicely. The only one still seems to be stuck in the rut is Gucci. Here we have a collaboration between Marc Jacobs, the designer, and Steven Meisel. And now Meisel, it says photographed by, and as of late, for many months, he's been putting documented by. And the reason he does that, and I understand it, it's quite literal. So the reason he does that is he has a full complement or a full staff. Meisel does. He has grip technicians and photographers. He has a whole team that actually goes, on location or in the studio. And basically, Meisel acts as the supervisor, so he's not really touching the camera. He has, like I said, he's farming this out to all of his helpers, assistants. But here, he's changed up, and he actually has photographed by, which makes one believe that he was literally behind the camera for this one. So it seems he stepped out of that supervisory role, where he's just, walking around supervising and actually photographing the subjects here. So let's measure this, or not measure, but let's talk about this here. So this really has kind of a harlequin, there are two accepted pronunciations, harlequin and harlequin. But these really long eyelashes here, the haircuts, it seems like Meisel and Jacobs are trying to channel maybe an element of the harlequin here. And it also reminds me, this is a very strong resemblance to an old Twilight Zone episode called 5 Characters in Search of an Exit. If you look at this here and here, it's a very strong resemblance to that episode. But anyway, so there are a few things going on here. There's just the collaboration, Meisel changing it from documented by to photographed by, where he's resuming his work at the camera, and this harlequin and this Twilight Zone kind of resemblance. So it's a nice photograph. But I'm kind of not understanding it. Put it all together, and I just don't know where he's taking it with this kind of harlequin look. Tiffany does not need really any analysis at all. It's just a very clean photo, very well photographed. Here, this image on the left, it's really reminiscent of Camilla Ockrens. And when I first saw this, because this is classic Camilla Ockrens, the model takes up a very small percentage of the real estate. It's kind of like the old Arnold Newman environmental portrait. Okay, this would obviously be an Arnold Newman on steroids. But what I'm getting at is the subject is photographed in an environment. And the current master of this style of photography is Camilla Ockrens. So this definitely, the one on the left, looks like a Camilla Ockrens shot. And Ockrens can also do some fairly close-in work like this. So again, it doesn't say who photographed this, but if I had to place money on it, I would say this is Camilla Ockrens' work. And it's really quite nice. Here we have Kendall Jenner. And this is so cool, it almost looks like the way she's posing. Kind of has this spider, right? It almost looks like a spider. And I just don't understand why the image is repeated twice. And Burberry does this in all their images. They place the watermark at 100%, and they do this in every image. And it's really quite bad. It's just, page design is just take the watermark, pull it down here somewhere, a little more obscure, so it's not defacing the actual image. Right, maybe reduce the opacity from 100 down to about 60 or so, and it would make for much better photographs. But all in all, it's a nice photo. Here we have Bella Hadid on the left. Okay, and I love this photographer's choice of paper. This paper is matching these outfits beautifully. Here we have a little bit of an homage to A Handmaid's Tale, right? Kind of that influence, right? So we have popular culture influencing fashion, right? The television show A Handmaid's Tale has definitely contributed to the influence of this headgear. The shoe, the paper, the clothing, everything is this shade of tan, you know, like almost like a khaki. And it's really working. Everything is working. This is really, really great photography. Quite nice. This, and I think I marked this by mistake. Fendi, the image on the right, is really clean. And I think this is, it's so clean, I believe this is medium format. I think we've departed full frame here. But just with the image quality, the quality of the sensor, I mean the size of the sensor. Using pretty good glass. And to me this is so clean, it looks like it was taken with a medium format sensor. But I love this, and you'll see a couple more here where the set designer has done a wonderful job setting up the set, designing the set. Here we have florals, right? Florals. And then another floral in this. It's like a porch swing. You know, you can put this out on your front porch and just swing in it. Or in your yard or whatever. But it's nice. Look at this. All this negative space is working over here. Quite nice by Fendi. Fendi's always been like in the premiere. If I had to do 5 tiers, with tier 5 being the top, Fendi has always been a tier 5. There's only a few there. There's Fendi, Prada, Hermes, used to be, Hermes was, Giorgio Armani. So there's only a handful that are very top of the top shelf, and Fendi is one of them. Look at this photo, how clean. The set design, look at all those colors. Definitely medium format. Again, we're getting back to a medium format sensor. That's way too clean to be full frame. Gorgeous. Okay, so this is what I was talking about. This colonialism. So let's go back. And from the part 1, we saw the pith helmet. Now come over here. We see this advertisement. This is Gigi over here, right? And I'm really not sure who these other models are, but it doesn't matter. This is the one that's really bothering me more than anything, because this one, if you remember, even Magnum PI, remember the character Higgins on Magnum. You know, he was a soldier in the British Army, and here this is what, right? This is kind of similar to what Higgins wore in Magnum. I'm talking about the 1980 through 89 version with Tom Selleck. Right, so this is clearly a British military uniform. And again, it's just like this pith helmet, right? This smacks of colonialism. You know, even if it's not a full-on annexation, when we have, you know, white people, white nations going into Africa and India, in either, if it wasn't a full-on annexation, it was at least an occupation. So this is really bad in terms of fashion. Because again, the reference is immediate. It smacks of colonialism. This is absolutely what the British wore, maybe turn of the last century or so, in India and Africa. You can even tell here the big wide military belt. You have the big pockets here and here in the shorts. Again, these are for utility, for ammunition, or for whatever, gloves. Right, these are very utilitarian, and they're for military type gear. Okay, this isn't for sunglasses and Kleenex. This is for ammunition and what have you. Okay, extra magazines. So I'm going long here, but again, this is just there's no place for this in fashion. Nobody wants to be reminded of colonialism. Okay, Nordstrom. Now, Nordstrom last year, fall 2019. They did a tribute to Joel Meyerowitz. The entire theme was Joel Meyerowitz. Here it's women of color. So I'll show you all the images. And I don't like this. And I'm trying to be fair. I'm trying to be an honest referee, calling balls and strikes. So just as it's not cool to bring back colonialism, I don't think it's cool to use every single model women of color, because then, right, it's equally upsetting to now shut white people out. Okay, so here Nordstrom, I'll show you image by image. Okay, it's nice photography. It's very well executed. And Nordstrom used to be a train wreck too. Nordstrom was once great. They went a number of years that their photography was quite terrible, and now they're getting back slowly. They're working their way back to good photography in these fashion magazines. So we've seen every woman so far has been a woman of color. Okay, we continue. Women of color. And this is the last image. Again, it's another woman of color. So every single image, they just shut white people out. So that's as equally upsetting as the British uniforms and the pith helmet. So it's just there's just a lot going wrong here. There's just a lot going wrong with these. I don't know. I just don't want to go on a big tangent here, but right, no matter what side is doing it, it's equally wrong. So let's get back to the images. So and stay away from the politics for a minute. We're getting to Etro here. I believe this is how it's pronounced. 1967, Summer of Love, Haight-Ashbury. We're getting kind of this flower power feel, right? Peaceniks, hippies, putting daisies in the barrels of M16s, right? Kind of has that vibe to it. It's really, really working. Lauren Hutton is making a comeback. Really looking quite lovely here. This image on the left is kind of looks like embroidered. It's very nicely done. This is a beautiful type of embroidery. Image on the right is quite nice. Nice. I got a helicopter flying over here. So anyways, it's quite nice. Beautiful makeup, beautiful hair. It's very nicely done. This is cool. You don't see this a lot. So this image on the left, if you can tell, it's being shot through a red gel. So you have red and pink over here, right? And you can see the skin has been turned kind of like this, kind of like a purplish. And the out of frame here, there's a strobe, of course, and they're shooting through a thin piece of plastic. It's in photography, it's called a gel, but all it is like a transparency, but it has color to it, right? And here they're shooting through, it looks like a purple gel to match here, right? So that's how you can tell the skin tones. They're just shooting through a purple gel. And it looks nice. It has a nice effect. Let me get this glare off of here. That's really clean. It almost kind of looks, it reminds me of some of the work Vuitton did, which Jean Shrimpton in the 60s. Kind of has that Vuitton Shrimpton collaboration feel to it. This image on the right, I'll give you a second to study this. What does that look like to you? Okay, to me, this looks like the scarecrow from The Wizard of Oz, right? You know, when you see a scarecrow out on the field, in the field, they have the baggy pants and they're short. The sleeve is too long, and you have this hat, and it really is very unflattering. You know, makes the model look like literally like a scarecrow. So again, this fashion designer who dressed this model, you just have to ask this person, what were you thinking? Honestly, what were you thinking? Because this is a train wreck. Here we have, I think she's a relatively new model. Valentina Sampiao, I believe it's pronounced. I'm not really sure. But she's rocking it. She really has the look. I mean, it's just wonderful modeling. I haven't heard of her really before. I've seen the name, but nothing major. Like nothing. She doesn't have the star power of a Gigi Hadid or Bella Hadid or Kaya Gerber. But I believe she's going to be very popular in the coming years. And here, this is really nice. I like this. And here they're using, the reason I like this photo is, you know, lately, I should say, you know, many years now, they've been using women who are very thin. And here you have a woman who's very voluptuous, okay, very curvy, not obese, not fat, but she has meat on her bones. And look how she's rocking this, okay. Now, this is what I mean about how the fashion industry should go back to embracing women like this. You know, this was once celebrated in the 1950s with women like Jane Mansfield, Sophia Loren, Marilyn Monroe. This was idealized as the feminine form in the 1950s. After that, we got away to these. Now, this one isn't so bad here, but what I'm talking about is like Eddie Slimane uses for Celine. Very emaciated. They look, right? They look like they have eating disorders, and I would love to see this return to the modeling industry. It would be very welcome. And let's make this the last image. This, I forgot her name. She's from India. She really started becoming famous in 2013. So she's been in the game 7 years. She's 31 years old. So she's kind of old for a model. But, I mean, she doesn't look 31. She looks maybe 23, 24 years old. But she's 31. She's from India. And she's just rocking this, right? The only thing I don't like about this, and we've talked about this before, is the toilet pose. So you can tell by the way she's seated. This really looks very much like she could be sitting on a toilet and taking care of nature's business, okay? And you never want that in a photograph, okay? Especially in modeling or fashion. You never want to pose to look like somebody is, right, sitting on a toilet and taking care of their business. That's horrible. But she's got the look, but again, this pose is killing the photograph. Okay, so let's end it here. We're at 16 and a half minutes. This will end part 2. If you enjoyed this, I would really appreciate an upvote. Please click the thumbs up. If you did not enjoy it, by all means, give me a thumbs down. And I will see you for part 3. Thank you.